Howdy, partners. Today, we're going to draw some horses. So, when we are drawing horses, the mammal anatomy tricks, which you're going to be, and a kind of understanding that you're going to get here, applies to all the quadrupeds. There are slight differences in how some muscles are attached or inserted in different groups. Carnivores are different than, a little bit different than horses, are a little bit different than ungulates. But by and large, the strategies that you hear today are going to be useful for everything from horses to oxen to your dogs and your cats to your to wild ungulates to antelope, gazelle, all those sorts of critters. So this is though going to be in a little bit more kind of fine grained detail. You are going to want this worksheet. If you go to the chat right now, you can find a link of how to print this out if you still have time to do that. If you are not able to print that out, I'm going to walk you through really quickly how to make kind of something that looks very, very close to this, but just with a few quick little lines to kind of just be a representation of the general skeletons. Today, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be looking at muscles, the major muscle groups across the body of the horse. And then in future classes, what we're going to do is we're going to take this very kind of static, here's all the muscles, and we're going to be turning the horse different angles. We are going to be kind of looking at sort of general proportions of colts versus adults. And in a future class, we're going to be getting into all the things that the legs do when we're running. So the running gaits, the positions of the legs in those, and some of the different positions of, you know, things that the body and head does. But today, it's going to be a rather static view, sort of a side view, and we're going to take a very close look at the horse. And let me just do a quick screen share here. And play. Yep, so if you haven't guessed, this is the Nature Journal Workshop with me. And today we are playing with horses. So here's a horse, all right? And hello, horse. And they're just gorgeous, gorgeous animals. All right, they're gorgeous animals. And if you look at them, their body is covered with lumps. There are big lumps. Here's a lump, here's a lump, here's a lump, right? There's a lump going all around here. There's depressions, there's grooves, well, what you're looking at is the reflection of the muscles underneath the skin. And so for drawing these, it really helps to understand the muscles that you're seeing underneath the skin of the critter. And so we're going to take a look at those right now, and we're going to kind of make sense of those different sort of large bulges and depressions. So as you're just looking at this right now, I want you just to, where you are, start to just say out loud sort of where you see big either depressions or bulges. Just talk your way through it. It has to be out loud. You're muted, so it won't bother anybody. But I'm watching your mouths, and you're not even. Yeah, come on. There you go. All right. And so let's talk it out loud. I'm going to mute myself here, and we'll do this with my dog.
Near the eye?
Yes, that's right. There's a lot of little bumps and things right near the eye. So what we're going to do now is we are going to take a look at the skull of a horse, and we're going to add a few muscles onto it, and then this will start to make a lot more sense. We're going to start with the head, and then we are going to go from there to go, we're going to start with the head, and we are going to then move into the body. And I'm going to jump over to the document camera. Oh, and there is, there's an ostrich riding a horse. And the, actually, is this, Melinda, can you give me a clarity check? Is this in focus?
Yes, it is.
Great. Just slightly here. What we're going to do is we're going to make, if you don't have a one of these handouts, we're going to make a quick head drawing. And so what I want you to do is you're going to make a big triangle, but it's going to have a...
Could you slide your paper up just a tad? Thank you.
So what we're doing is we're making a big triangle like this and snipping the front off. Up in here, I'm going to put in a little ridge and place the eye above that. Behind the eye, I'm going to have a little gap, so there's a bone ridge that comes up behind the eye. And then I'm going to flatten off the top of the skull. We're going to come down. We are going to scoop out to our jaws, and our jaws will be out here. Below the eye, I'm going to come down and draw a line to the tip of the jaws here. And I'm going to put in a little kind of extension of the lower jaw. Here, the jaw. Down. So there is sort of a simplified skull in case you don't have this worksheet. But if you do, here we go. So the first, the horse's head is all about chewing. It is just nom, 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 all about chewing. And so if you put your hands on your cheeks right now, put your hands on your cheeks, yep, yep, put your hands on your cheeks, and then what you do is clench your jaws. Feel that little flexing muscle? That's your chewing muscle. That's your masseter muscle, and it attaches to your cheekbone, and it attaches down to your jaw. And munch, you use that to chew. So on your skull here, what you're going to do is you're going to draw if you have a few colors of colored pencils, that's great. If not, you can just use whatever color you have here. But I'm going to use sort of colors in a couple of ways. I'm going to first draw in, I'm going to draw along this whole ridge. Let me zoom a little bit more. Well, it's not wanting to zoom right now. All right, so, and let me try to refocus. All right, so I'm drawing along this little ridge, and so my muscle is going to start here. It's going to, and it is going to end down in this area along the lower jaw. So what I'm going to get is a big, massive muscle. It's sort of a half moon shape here. And the fibers run in this direction for chewing. Okay. And just for fun, I'm going to give it just a little bit of reddish orange color here. So that's your masseter muscle. And it's a thick muscle, about 1 inch thick. And so it makes a very kind of hard line down the side of the critter's body. The horse also has lip muscles. So the horse, its lip muscles, this is pretty cool. We're going to start out here in front of where the teeth are. And you're going to make a bulge that sticks out. And you're going to wrap that down and back into a little kind of frowning pattern. And back. So you kind of get this double lips. Actually, I made mine a little bit too high. To erase that. I'm going to have my lips here. Bring the mouth back, and I'm going to turn it down at the end so it comes back and down. This is going to wrap around that and to here. So there are muscles that go all the way around the lips here. The orbicularis oris, if you are into such things. And at the back of the mouth here, there are 2 muscles, one attached on the lower jaw and one attached on the upper jaw that can pull this mouth back. And
could you push your paper up just a little bit? Thank you.
Thank you. Right? One muscle is going to attach here on the back of the upper jaw, underneath that masseter, and it's going to come out here to the top. The other is going to be down here on the lower jaw. That's where it attaches, and it attaches to the lower jaw. So what you'll get is 2 big muscles that will sit in there like that. And just for fun, I'm going to give them a little bit of orange color there. Around the eye, there is a large muscle that sticks out above and below the eye. The eye, you're not going to, don't think of it as an eye that's this big. The eye fits into that socket, but the horse's eye is much bigger beyond the outside edge of what you see. So the horse's eye, the part that you see is only going to be something like this. But there are muscles that go above this and muscles that go below the eye that make a ring around the eye that bulge out. There's also a little kind of tab of a muscle at the corner here that can pull the horse's eye up. For the nose, we're going to, if you take your own nose, you'll find that the tip of it is flexible. You can push it back and forth. That's because there is a sheet of cartilage going up the middle of your nose. The horse has a little bit more of an interesting cartilage thing going on in its nose. So from this little bone that sticks out here, there is a curved piece of cartilage that sticks out. And so that's a rounded sheet of cartilage. And tucked inside that is sort of a comma-shaped second piece of cartilage that's going to kind of curve around, and it tucks into that first one. They also have cartilage in their ear. So I'm going to go, that little spot right there is where its ear is. And there is a cartilage base with a kind of leaf-shaped cone that sticks up. From that spot there. So you're going to put your ear first on top of a little cone. The ear can go back when it's upset, forward when it's curious, but it's pivoting from around this point right there. So if those are major muscles in the head of the horse, then if I put skin on it, I'm going to wrap the skin smoothly down the skull, and the skin is then going to kind of come out here to the lips, bump, bump. Here's my nostril, and the nostril, because you have the big sheet of cartilage and that other one in it, sort of makes a little number 6. All right, there's my kind of hole in the nostril. There's my number 6. There is a bulge of tissue right underneath the chin here. And then from there, you are just following the contours of that head. On the back, from the point of the skull, you're going to come down, and we will get into the neck a little bit more in a moment, but it's going to kind of come out and then down from there. There is your sort of basics of horse head. So we have our massive masseter muscle. We have these two muscles here called the buccinator. Those are those cheek muscles. The ones around the eye. And then the 6 of our nostril. If I am kind of making a quick and dirty horse head, what I will often do is I will put in a circle, I will put in a little tube, here's another circle, kind of connect those up. So this circle here kind of goes into the top of the head. So I want a curve down here, and then you want that little chin bump. That chin bump really makes it look kind of horsey, double bump for the lips. All right, and for the quick nostril, it's a sort of a number 6 right in there. Eye is going to be up in here. I can get away with drawing a circle with a little bit of a line kind of coming down from it. On the side of the head of a horse, you are looking at the side of the eye, so you're not seeing the eye like this. Because it's an herbivore, the eye is looking out towards you, and so you're seeing a circle for the eye. So that's just a few little kind of horsey features. If I'm putting in sort of some shadows and things suggesting structure, I've got my big masseter muscle there. I also have the shadow here of my buccinators kind of coming in like that. Sometimes when the nostrils are flared, the edges of that nostril really stick out. So sometimes you can also just put some tone near the nostrils, but stop before you get to the very edge of the nostril. And that just sort of makes it look like there's a little lip that is sticking out towards you. I can do that in the front too. Here is just some shadow near it, allowing the edge of it to pop. Let's just go back to a real horse head, and with this sort of structure in mind, we are going to take a look at Horsey Head, right? So now, just look at this. There's that eye. Take a look at the bump of skin around the eye. You see how that and that line there fits the eye into the head? Those lines there, a little bit bigger zone of tissue, smaller below. If you put those in, your eye won't feel just like a little dot floating on the side of your piece of paper. It'll feel like there's some real structure and intention behind how you're sort of putting your eye. So I always love those little zones above and below the eye. There's the edge of the masseter, nice shadow. Look at the buccinator. Boom, boom. That bump on the chin. All right, so those bumps on the horse's head, there's a few key ones. It really helps just to understand what is going on there in order to draw them. Look at the 6 in the nose and how there is a little highlight around the edge of that, a little highlight here. So if you're doing this with your pencil, you draw in the 6 and then you put shading in here, but just stop that shading before you got to the rim of the nose there. Those are separate little zones of cartilage. This bump you see right here is the end of that little bony ridge on the side of the horse's face. So there's a bone ridge that just goes all the way in there. The masseter hangs down below that. That's what gives you that sort of hard corner right there. You're often going to see that as a very deliberate thing. Here is the bone going back from its eye. There's that depression above it, little depression below it. Look at how the eye pops out here. Oh, see, that's good. That's good. We want that in our drawing. Going back to this guy here to have a little bit more fun, if you can sort of see up in the corner, I can put in some of the shadows around the eye, especially that big pit right behind the eye. Here's a little bit of a closer look at the 6. Right? So you can think of them kind of like parentheses. When you're drawing them from the front, you get the sort of dyslexic 66, where the two are pointing towards each other, right? But you see there's that outer one. The inner cartilage ring tucks into the outer one. Oh. Such soft little muzzles. And now, my friends, we're going to hit the rest of the body, right? So the head's important. Everybody's going to look at your head. Even from this distance, you can see that, you can see the little point of the edge of that little shelf where the masseter muscle, the ridge on the side of the skull, there's that depression behind the eye bulge pops out, very clear 6 of the nose, tilted up. Mouth comes down a little bit at the back, even if it doesn't have a bit in its mouth. But now look at all the rest of these bumps all over the body. Notice that there's a bunch of bumps here above the shoulder, bunch of bumps here above the hips. We're going to pay particular attention to what's going on here and just go crazy. Notice that there's a big bulge here, and in the leg you're seeing ripples going down, right? Big bulge here, right? Secondary bulge here. Also notice that the legs have a very wide, big top part, a medium width middle part, and a skinny lower part, and all the joints are knobby. So we go from big to medium, knobby joint, to skinny, knobby joint, to super skinny on the ground there. What I'm going to do is draw a little kind of walkthrough of a quick horse skeleton for people who don't have the handout. if you do have the handout, follow along because we're going to be taking a look at what are the different bones that you see in the skeleton, right? So if I don't have a little skeleton drawing, I am going to start with a skull and a spine. All right, so I'm going to start with a skull. I'm going to draw a little circle. I'm going to draw a line that comes down from that. And like that. There's a little skull and spine. I'm going to flesh out the skull a little bit more. I'm going to draw all right. So you see there's a little skull. I'm going to come down from that skull where I'm going to hit the body. The body, I'm going to have a big rib cage.
Jack, would you push the paper up just a little bit for
sorry
us?
about that.
Thank you.
So I have a rib cage. It's going to be in this part here. And the shoulder and front leg is going to be in front of that. So the shoulder is going to be in, so there's a big diagonal triangular shoulder blade. I have a big diagonal triangular shoulder blade. At the base of that is my shoulder joint. And from there, I am coming back with my upper arm bone. That is the humerus. So my humerus is in there. From there, coming straight down, I have my radius and ulna. That's my forearm. There's a joint here. I'm going to put little balls in where I have the joints. My carpal bones here. And my toe bones sticking out here to the little bone. So this is going to be up against the body. It's an angle. From below the body, it's a straight post till you get to the toes. So this is the elbow. This is the wrist. This is the fingers here. The hip bone, I'm going to draw just sort of a little kind of curving bone back here. My hip bone, it attaches to the spine. So it's fused into the spine. And backing here, lower back on the hip bone, is where the femur, the thigh bone, comes in. My thigh bone is going to come down to a knee at about the same height as the elbow. It is going to then go back, knee bends back, to an ankle. And the ankle is slightly higher than the wrist. So then I have a long bone coming down here. That's my foreleg, my sort of my foot bone, also called the tarsus. And here's it, come down to a joint here. And then more toe bones that stick out. My daughters are helping me stay on the screen here. So thank you, Carolyn. All right. So you're going to use this little Horsey drawing to help you follow along. Later on, if you want, we're recording this, and you can print out the handout and rework it if you would like to. Or if you draw something like this, it fits into your journal really, really nicely. So here we go. I am going to add some bones, some muscles to the front leg, some muscles to the back leg, and then we'll attach those into our skeleton. So first, muscles of the front leg. All right. Let's see. So I'm going to be doing some of those up here. I'm going to be doing some of them down here. And I recommend the ones that I do up here, you do up here. The ones that are down here, you do down here. Otherwise, they get so much on one little drawing, it might get a little bit confusing. All right. So, which one do I want to do? First, I want to start with some bones that are going to be occupying this big area right here. One of the most significant, one of the most important is the triceps, right? That's the back of your arm. It originates along a long line on the back of the shoulder blade, along the back of the scapula here. And it connects into this little point sticking up here. This is your funny bone, the ulna sticking up there. So it is a muscle with 3 heads. 2 of them are up in here. The other one is a head that sort of starts in this area on your forearm bone, on your humerus. So I'm going to start with this forearm bone one, and I'm going to draw from there kind of a big, fat, juicy muscle. It comes across like that. And that's the short head of the triceps. And then from up here, the big one, this is, oh, super big, nice, tasty, juicy. Oh, look at this, big, big, big muscle here. See, the triceps on things that run for a living are enormous muscles. They're enormous muscles. Human triceps are not as well developed, but this is a major structural part of a quadruped. So there is your triceps muscle.
Jack, is there a significance to the colors that you're using, or is it just to help us see it better?
I'm going to be using these just to help you see it better. And also, I just think it looks cool. Yeah. It kind of looks like some muscles when I get, you know, the blue kind of closer towards the points where they attach kind of looks a little bit tendony to me. And the that other part out there kind of makes it look like sort of meat of muscles. When I get a bunch of different ones kind of all stuck in the same place, you're going to see that I will also I will put blue into some of those, the light blue with the dark blue, so just so that they stand out to help you kind of tell the difference between those. So there's my triceps. Now, wrapping around this joint here are a bunch of strong muscles. There's another muscle that is going to come from this area up here on the humerus. All right. And it is going to wrap around to the back side of this bone here. So it's going to come here around the front, and it's going to tuck around the corner here. So it's making this little kind of whoop. See that? Kind of tuck around there. So it's coming out from under here, and it's tucking around here. That's the brachialis muscle. And it's important because it's together with the end of the triceps makes this little cup here that the rest of the leg muscles are going to be kind of appearing to come from. So at the top of the leg, there's this little cup. That's your brachialis. And one other muscle that is in here starts with a tendon on the edge of the shoulder blade. The rope of the tendon comes over the end of the bone here, starts to come down this way, and then fleshes out into a muscle here that also is going to attach on the back side of this, this bone down here. So on the side of the radius. So it's going to come down into here. So I'm just going to draw it like this. This is all you get for your bicep. I'm coloring it blue. And human weightlifters are very proud of their biceps. They've developed their biceps to be very, very big. So we think that the biceps are going to be kind of a big deal. They're not on a quadruped. Because basically, what do you ever, if you are a horse, what do you ever have to curl? Your own unweighted leg. But when you lift your own unweighted leg, this one goes like, oh, feel the burn, right? It's a little small muscle. But this, when you put that leg on the ground and you push off, you're using your triceps. That's why this is massive, this is small. So massive, small, right? So what you've got here is a little shell of these muscles that are wrapping around both sides of the leg muscles that will be coming down this way. By the way, you don't need to learn the names of these muscles. If this is something, if you do, I mean, it's fun and it's next level stuff. But don't feel pressure to do that if this is feeling like, wow, this is a lot of information, right? But just remember, if you can you want to get your triceps, and you're going to be able, you want to be able to kind of recognize this. Where is my pen? I lost my pen. May I borrow your pen? Thank you. All right. So what you're going to see here is this cut right here. Right? This little cut right here. This will make a little ripple on the side of the body. Right? Those lines there are going to make significant bumps and bulges on the side of your beastie. Now, let's put some muscles. This is the big part, now the medium part here. They're going to put in two muscles down here. There's actually a whole bunch of muscles that run up and down in this part of the leg, but we're only going to put in two. And to make it a little bit less confusing, I'm going to put them up here in this drawing here. The first one I'm going to attach on the underside of the humerus here. And it is going to go all the way down across this joint. So it's going to cross this joint and cross this joint and attach right down there. So muscles, in order to function, have to cross over at least one joint. And when they contract, it's going to affect that joint that they go across. So this one starts here, and it has a kind of big beginning, and then it tucks back down and into a small tendon. So isn't that beautiful? That big on the top, close to the body, but as you get further away from the body, right, out here, you don't want big, heavy muscle. You want to move everything out here by tendons. So you'll see this is big, and then it goes down to small little tendon here. This is the extensor carpi radialis. All right, and so that is going to make a big muscle that's what's going to tuck in here by the brachialis and the triceps. So they're going to kind of come into this. So those other muscles will be covering up over here, and this will kind of be like whoop, sticking out from underneath that. We're going to have one more muscle here, and I'm going to attach that on the back end of the humerus. And it's going to have, again, a big part up here, and it's going to go down to this little tab here, this little wrist bone. All right, that goes down to that little wrist bone right there. And what is the name of this? My brain is blanking. Fortunately, I had it written down. I don't have the names of some of these memorized, but for those of you at home who are really kind of into this, right? I didn't have this one. Ulmolaris, A-R-I-S, the Ulmolaris lateralis. All right, and so that is making a big bump up here that then comes down. So on both of these, notice big to small, and that everything is moved by tendons down below. Okay. So on the lower legs here, I don't even worry about any muscles. Those are all operated by muscles that will just have little tendons that will come down here. And the muscle won't be down here. The muscle beat will be up past that, up in here. So there'll be little tendons that will come and stick all the way down to the lower leg. But you're just going to get big, medium, super small. There is one more muscle that I am going to put into the upper arm. And this one, I'm going to put it back on this drawing here, even though this is a rather crowded drawing, because it really plays nicely with the triceps. The way that this muscle makes an angle with the triceps, you're going to see on the side of your horse. All right? So these are the deltoid muscles. All right? Your deltoids are going to come from a point right back here on your shoulder blade, and this little bump on there's a ridge in the middle of the shoulder blade from that point right here. And they are going to go all the way to this little bump in the front of the humerus, in the front of the arm bone. So they cut across like this. And in the carnivores, they're moved a little bit further forward. But on the horse here, I'm going to put in these deltoid muscles right in there. So there's the deltoids. It's a big shoulder muscle, and that makes a little groove like this on the side of the horse. So I'm now going to switch over to the picture of the horse again. And let's look at this forelimb, all right? So here you see a big bump. Here you see a big bump on the back. What are those? Here you see a big, massive chunk of meat, right? That has a lower part and an upper part. Whatever could that be? And notice that there's a little V here where it kind of, the lower leg tucks up. So here's your brachialis, here's your triceps up in here. This is the deltoids coming down across here. And this is just, you're seeing the imprint of the shoulder blade and the muscles that are on that. So that's what's going on up here. But here is your triceps, this big, massive thing. Here's your brachialis, making the cup that the leg fits up into. See that nice big muscle up in here? That's our extensor carpi radialis. Leg is big, medium in here, and small. We see the same thing going on the back leg. All right. Actually, first let's just look at this one a little bit more. So take a look at the leg here and see if it's starting to make a little bit more sense. Right, you see that? What's going on here? What's this? What are you looking at? So you see there's just a few kind of key creases. This V here, where the leg tucks in, back of the triceps, edge of the deltoids, you get those. Here's the edge of the other deltoid. And this whole area, it's not just random bumps. What some people do when they draw a horse and they get to something like this is they just sort of start to put in lines and shadows and shades because they kind of go like, then it's just like this scary zone of lumps. But no, there is structure going on here. And if you understand that underlying structure, you will be a happy camper. Right. Let's take a look at the back leg. For the back leg, I'm going to draw some of my back leg muscles here and
Jen,
some
could you
down.
focus? Sorry, could you focus the image?
Sure. Is that better?
It's a little better, but it's blurrier than it was before.
Okay. I'm going to try to do a screen share with the visualizer and tell me if Melinda is that better.
That's clearer.
Right. And where is my focus? Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good. Anytime it gets blurry, please tell me.
Sure.
Because then I'm drawing all these drawings. It just looks like a great blur on the screen to everybody. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to put some muscles in here on our back leg. All right. There's a few key jumbo muscles on the back leg. Back here, where a human being has our quadriceps on a lot of quadrupeds, that big muscle is a three-headed muscle. And so from back here on this part of the hip bone, that's the hip bone there, and this part right here of the femur, the thigh bone, I am going to take, so from here is a giant rod of muscle that's going to go all the way to the kneecap and back like this. So a big muscle in here, and then another head of that muscle coming down here. It bulges out and comes in here. And there's an inner hidden head you're not seeing here. This is the triceps of the leg. And in human beings, this would be your quadriceps.
Jack, could you zoom in just a tad on this one?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And let me try to refocus. All right.
Yep.
Is that looking good?
Yeah, it is.
Great. All right, so here are my triceps. So this big, beefy muscle. And another jumbo muscle is going to go from the back of the thigh bone here to the heel bone, which is sticking up right here. Oh, sticking up right here. And so that's a muscle that kind of comes out, has a bulge, and then it goes to a skinny little tendon, the Achilles tendon, right in here. All right, so that is and that's your gastrocnemius, your calf muscle. Right? That's your big calf muscle right there. So the calf muscle down here and the triceps up here. Really big muscles. There's a few other little muscles that will sculpt the leg. So there is, just as there is a big muscle on the front of this, there's on the back of this leg, there's also a big muscle whose the bulge of it sits about in here. And it attaches on the front of the leg. This is the Extensor Digitorum Longus. And it is going to go all the way from there into, it actually moves the toes when you're, and it is attached to a long ligament that's going to run all the way down here.
Could you push the page up just a tad? Thank you.
All the way down to the toes. That makes a bulge in the front part of the leg. You've got the bulge in the back, with a bigger bulge, and a smaller bulge in the front. And that's the extensor. Digitorum. Longus. Okay. So here are these big, juicy muscles. What I'm going to do up here is I'm just going to lightly put in those muscles. So I've got my triceps here.
Oh, I have a question in the chat about the muscle that you just covered. The triceps, is that quads? Because
Yes,
it's the back leg?
that's the quads. We have an extra head on that muscle on our bodies. And so it is a quadriceps, but these guys don't have that extra head. And so it is a, it is a three-headed muscle, so it is a triceps. So all a triceps mean is that it is a muscle with that number of heads.
Great, thank you.
All right, so all I've done here with this light blue pencil is popped in those big muscles that we already have. There's a few other muscles that are up here that help kind of sculpt the back leg. And one attaches to the edge of the hip bone here. And the front edge of it goes all the way down here to the kneecap. And then it spreads out in a big sheet across the thigh here in sort of a membrane. That's the tensor fasciolate. And so that is kind of what gives you a little bit of the shape of the front of the leg there. Similarly, there are muscles that give you the shape of the back of the leg. And one of those that is going to be, we're going to drop in today. It is going to start back here on part of the kind of the upper pelvis, the hip bone before you get to the tail section. That muscle is going to come out around the edge, the end of the hip bone here. And it is going to drop all the way down to in here. And it comes in behind the calf muscle. And this This is called the semitendinous. S-E-M-I tendinous. All right, so the semitendinous wraps around the back here, and it's going to go all the way down in here to spread out along this part of the shin bone. I do that behind the gastrocnemius muscle. So in this, I've got muscles that will make a few big bumps. One, you will often see a groove right here on the hip of the animal where the edge of the semitendinous muscle is. You will often see a big shadow right here underneath the edge of the triceps muscle. You will also often see kind of some little grooves down here, but most importantly, check this out. There's a big tendon coming over here. There's a big bone here.
Could you push the page up just a little bit? Thank you.
In the back part of the leg, right up in here, you will see a little place where it's very, very thin. If you feel back on your own ankle, right behind, in front of your heel bone, where your Achilles tendon comes down, you're going to see that there's a little thin place, and you'll see that on our critters as well. So let's jump back to horses for one more minute. And we're going to see these features on the horse. What is this? Oh, what's that? That big comma on the back edge of your horse hip. Ah, I know that, right? So there's where your semitendinous muscle is wrapping around the back edge of your horse. What about this, right? There's a big bump here, smaller bump below it, right? So this business in here, that is your triceps muscle. And here comes your tensor fasciae latae coming down like this, wrapping up in there. Bigger view. All right. So let's take a look one more time for review. We have our front leg here, our triceps. We have that large muscle in the front of the leg coming down, going into a tendon. We have the edges of our deltoids right in here. We have the tensor fasciae latae coming down in this direction here. Right here is a little shadow. That is the edge of the semitendinous in there. And right here is the bottom of the triceps of our legs. In the leg right here is a big bump in the front. That is that extensor digitorum longus. Again, don't need to know the terms, but it attaches up in here. It's got a little thread that runs all the way down here. Oops, wrong one. All right. So now take a look at this horse and see if the bumps in the front and the back make a little bit more sense. Then I'm going to throw one more muscle at you because I know we're over time, but I would be remiss if we didn't make some sense out of what was going on here with the neck and be able to connect our neck in with our body. And in the subsequent class, we're going to be rotating these and kind of getting a whole bunch of dynamic poses. But for here, we're just paying attention to the muscles as we see them. So I'm going to pop back to this big horse one last time. Off of the back of the skull, from its mastoid process to this little ridge all along the back of the skull. There's a big muscle that attaches in there. Zoom in a little bit more. Oh, we can't do that. We'll go like this. And focus. Right. Melinda, are we still focused?
Yes, we are.
Great. So there's a big muscle that goes all the way down here. It wraps over the top of the shoulder, and it tucks in behind this humerus, behind this upper arm bone here. So what it does is it comes down like this, lower edge comes down to the front of the shoulder. The back edge of it is thicker, and it wraps around here and tucks in behind that. This there's a couple of names for this bone, but the more recent text, I'm finding this one referred to as the Brachiocephalic. So it goes from out here on the back of the skull all the way down to the backside of the humerus. And this is what's responsible for making that big groove down the front of the neck. There's another muscle we could put in here that goes from the rib cage, the point of the rib cage to the back of the jaw here. So this in here, so actually I'm giving you two muscles. Yeah, we'll do that. All right, there's this muscle that is getting blue. And then there's the thicker one on the outside of that makes this very strong ridge right down the side of the neck, right in there, right? So we have the Brachiocephalus, and the one in the front goes from the sternum to the mandible. It's the sternomandibularis. Right. And that's what's going to make that big groove in the front of the neck of the horse. A final non-muscle, so like, wow, that's a lot of muscles. I'm now going to give you one thing that's not a muscle. It's a big ligament. And it's just going to hold your head up, and it's going to go from the back of the head, and it's going to attach to this ridge on the spine here. So there's a big ligament there, and then it has smaller sections on it that just kind of come down like this, and they help hold up the neck. So the neck doesn't fall down because of this nuchal ligament that's right in here. But that also gives you a whole edge of your horse. Back to the horse cam one last time. All right. Here you see going from the back of the skull. This is coming down here, and then that muscle wraps around the top of the shoulder right in there. And here is that inset muscle that it goes from the back of the jaw to the point of the sternum right in there. So those muscles, those ligaments, are what carve the horse. And if you spend some time wrapping your head around those and playing with those muscles, finding photographs online of horses and doing a diagram of them, really emphasizing the muscles that make sense. See if you can like find the grooves on the side of the body and understand what you're seeing there. You're horses will have a solidity and a structure that will really, really pay off. Right? So for your homework, 5 horse studies, 5 horse studies. Find 5 photographs with good musculature online and copy those photographs. If you're able to get to a place where there's a real horse, okay, all the better. See if you can draw from a real horse. I don't have any real horses anywhere near where I am right now. But if you can get them, great. Otherwise, 5 studies where you're going to just emphasize, look at, try to make sense of those bumps and not just leave them out, but include ones that really help you map your way around the body. I'm going to be putting this series of this workshop up as a video on my website, John Muir Laws. You should be able to find that soon. I also will have the bone worksheet for you to work with. Also at that site, if you're able to, you can make a donation to support my work. Those donations make a huge difference to me and my family in this crazy time of COVID. If you're not able to do so, I completely understand. Please keep coming, please keep sketching, but just find another way in your community to with an act of kindness, to help other people in your community.